Hello, craft beer friends, and welcome to Season 9, Episode 5 of Tap to Craft Podcast. I am Danny Lewis, coming to you from Boise, Idaho, and my partner in craft, the dog whisperer, and my favorite Florida man from Tampa, Florida, Mr. Chris McKenzie. How you doing tonight, Chris? And of course, what is in your glass?
First off, what a past couple of days it has been.
Okay, let's hear about it.
That's as far as I'm really going to go with it. The beer is hitting the spot.
Okay.
And I'm just we say this all the time. I'm just happy to be here chatting about beer with you, Denny.
That's right. Me too.
Beer. In my glass this evening, I'm drinking a beer from your side of the country, the Phantom Bride from Belching Beaver.
Nice. Different can this time.
It is. They're not black around the outside anymore. They're white and silver.
Yeah.
And I was just happy to grab a hold of this beer. I've liberated it from the fine state of Nevada. And, Southwest Airlines helped me get it back safe and sound here in Florida.
Yeah, for free too, right?
Well, yeah, I just checked my second bag. My beer shipper box is always my second bag, and then we ended up with so much stuff on the way back. I mean, I was rolling it up in dirty clothes and in my bag and Megan's bag and Tina and Manny's bag. I mean, we had a little bit of everything scattered around. Mr. Mike Allen, good evening to you, sir. Thank you for hopping on
Mike,
with us.
Welcome.
What about you, Denny? What are you drinking, and how's your day going?
Well, I'm drinking Payette Brewing Flyline Vienna Lager. Love this beer. They had a sale. 3 6-packs for $6.99 a piece. So why not? I mean, it's inflation. You might as well save some money. And I love Payette Brewing's Flyline. I got their another beer I'll be drinking from them tonight is a Tropical Hazy. Sofa King Hazy, Tropical Hazy, Sofa King. you know that.
I know what you're saying. You're trying to not say Sofa King.
Yeah, exactly. But I got that. I'll be drinking after we drink our tasting notes beer.
Okay.
So I thought I'll start with this one because it's not going to wreck my palate, and I'll be able to enjoy all the great flavors of that Belgian triple that we'll be tasting here shortly. And how's my day going? Fantastic, because I'm here with you and with our listeners watching us on Facebook Live and Twitter. Welcome, everyone. We'd like to have you with us. And I have one thing to say is, why is everyone driving like idiots out there? What happened? Did COVID come and just totally mess up people's driving skills? And it's not that they're just driving poorly. They're just driving wrong. That's what's killing me, right?
Just wrong.
When did it become okay from the center lane to cut in front of somebody and turn right in front of them as they're going straight? When did that become okay? That doesn't seem like that's something that should be happening.
That happens when you move to Florida, just to let you know.
Well, I know, and this is something that hadn't been at Boise for a long time. In the last few years, we've had a lot of people coming from outside the state of Idaho. And I think they've brought their bad driving habits. And I guess that thing is normal. These type of driving things are normal. I know it's normal in Utah. I've driven in Utah plenty of times, and those guys are crazy. But I think California also has some, crazy. Now, my buddy calls them, he always says the meth heads.
Yeah.
The ones that are speeding down the freeway, 4-lane freeway, weaving in and out of cars, not thinking about maybe somebody else is going to legally with a blinker on when it was clear, change lanes as they're speeding in like it's the Daytona 500 and nearly, killing everyone in their path. So
yeah, I almost got clipped the other day. I was changing lanes. I had my blinker on for a good 10 seconds while I was waiting for the car in the left lane to move up. And as soon as I go to shift over, man, there was a guy right up in there, and I thought I was getting rear-ended, but fortunately it didn't happen.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. And luckily there were, I'm not even kidding, on the way home, 3 of what I just explained to you, not the racing in and out, because I don't take the freeway. I take the back roads because I don't want to get killed on the way home. But even on the back roads, people are doing stupid things. Yeah. 3 cars in a 13-mile time thing did an outrageous act while driving that I couldn't believe. So, but I made it safely. I'm here and I'm ready to record this show. But you know what? Before we get too far along, we always want to let anyone new listening to Tap to Craft know what we're all about. Tap to Craft Podcast is an educational podcast focused around celebrating all things craft beer because we want to assist you, our listener, along in your craft beer journey and adventure. And you're listening to episode 213. We're recording on Monday, September 19, 2022. And we are live on Facebook and Twitter. Join us for our recording on the Monday before the show releases at 8:30 Eastern Time. And in this episode, we are going to discuss the malting process. Why do we use malt in beer? And how do we make malt? And what makes it different from regular grains that we use to bake with, for instance? And of course, we want to explain why beer needs malt. And we did talk about this way back in episode 14. But you know
Almost
what?
200 episodes, 199 episodes ago.
199 episodes ago, we talked about this. So why not talk about it again with a little bit more, maybe modern take on what we discussed back then? And as I mentioned, I hinted to earlier, we are doing a tasting notes segment with the Chimay White Cinq Cents Belgian Triple L Trappist Belgian Triple L. Look at that beautiful beer. And this is one I haven't had yet. I've had the other two Trappist some Chimays, but I haven't had the white as far as I remember. Maybe I'll look it on tap and it'll be there, but I don't remember having the white, so it'll be a good treat. And you can always count on Chris and I having some great conversation along the way. We also would like to thank our Patreon supporters because this episode is brought to you in part by our satisfied Patreon supporters like Mike Allen, Bill Schlemmer, Amanda and Kevin Aurgauer. I'm having trouble talking already.
Amanda and Kevin Aurgauer.
Mike Blanchard, Tara Carlson, and Jim Kudzel, who are our virtual producers. And Tom Byrne, Jeff Seiler, Johan Halberg, Chad Lamassa, Mark Church, Eric Groundley, and Matt Knight, who want to buy us a virtual beer. If you enjoy the content we provide, we invite you to support the show by toasting your host or buying us a virtual beer or even becoming a virtual producer. You can explore the options on our support page by visiting patreon.com/tapthecraft. All right, well, guess what, Chris? Just this morning, we got some feedback and a question from our listener, Mr. Bill Schlemmer. Mm-hmm. He wrote us an email. He actually wrote us 2 emails, but I'll just talk briefly about the second one at the end. So here's what he had to say. I listened to an interesting podcast on The Splendid Table, a cooking podcast, originally a radio show started by Lynn Rossetto Casper. The podcast date was dated September 9. The host interviews the Smithsonian's beer curator and then talks with someone who produced a documentary on Black women brewers in the South and talks with Stephanie Grant of Good Beer Hunting, who shares her favorite beer and food pairings. It's an interesting episode if you have spare time to listen to it. I wanted to share that with our listeners because I did listen to this podcast today after I heard about it. And I'll tell you what, very, very interesting. If you enjoy history and you enjoy learning about history of some beer history, I think you'll enjoy the podcast. I really did enjoy it. And there were 3 different people that he interviewed, all bringing a different take. And what I liked also is the host is not a beer guy. He knows nothing about beer. So he was asking those questions about, hey, well, what does that mean? What does this mean? And so it was kind of nice to hear how the other guests were responding back to his questions and answers. And I really appreciate it, especially, I'll tell you what, I really enjoyed Stephanie Grant with her talking about her food pairings and those different styles and recommending a book called The Beer Pantry, I think it's called. Yeah, I think it's called The Beer Pantry, which talks about beer styles in a kind of a different way of doing it. I might look into that book just because it sounded interesting. But yeah, she did a great job. I really enjoyed that. So thank you, Bill, for recommending that to us. And I think I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to just have a direct link to the webpage where that's at. So Chris, why don't you go ahead and read the question that Bill has?
All right. So he said, I have a copy of the BJCP guidelines. So for those of you that aren't familiar with it, BJCP is the Beer Judge Certification Program. He said, I have a copy of that downloaded to my Google Drive. When tasting a new style or one I haven't tasted in a while, I'll review the style guidelines. I tasted a cream ale a while ago and reviewed the guidelines and was surprised to see that prime examples of cream ales included New Glarus's Spotted Cow. New Glarus calls it a farmhouse ale on their website. Untapped lists it as a farmhouse ale -other. I'm surprised BJCP lists this as a cream ale rather than some type of Belgian. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, so Bill is correct. In the 2015 BJCP guidelines, it does list the Spotted Cow as an example for an American cream ale. But in the newest ones that they released, an update in the 2021 BJCP, they removed Spotted Cow as an example. Now, why would they put a beer into an example of a style that the beer by the brewers was brewed to be a certain other style? And the reason why is I don't know, to be honest with you. Now, what I do know is that in a lot of beer judging contests, beers will be entered into categories that weren't originally brewed to be, to be that category, but because they take on a lot of the same characteristics and brewed in a similar manner to the way that the guidelines fall, that then they might be judged on that. And if they fit the guidelines, then they could win an award for that style. So I think, and again, I haven't had Spotted Cow. It's on my bucket list of beers to have, but I haven't had Spotted Cow yet. So I can't speak to this beer itself as to what characteristics of it fall into a possible cream ale. I'm guessing that the spicing of the farmhouse, the saison character, and the Belgian, spicing and sweetness and whatever they have in there is probably really mild, and it's really mild in a way that it can mimic a cream ale that has some additives added to it, or uses something that gives off some different characters than we expect. We expect the cream ale to be light, corny, or maybe some corn, a real malty kind of beer, and not have spices, not be real hopped up, or not have a lot of pizzazz to it. But it's possible that Spotted Cow is mild enough and easy drinking of a beer that falls into all those categories where it could be used as an example. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you too, and especially in 2015 when those guidelines were put out. Even the very following year, there were so many, not only just different. The following year or the year after, I believe, you started seeing things like the hazy IPAs, the New England IPAs, and all these different styles that went into their guidelines. Man, Bill, I'm sure if you've looked at it enough, you've noticed that there is a ton of information in there. Mm-hmm. And just like Denny said, they could have entered it in the cream ale category, and it could have won an award, and they went, oh, well, this is a great example. It won an award, back in 2013 or whatever, and let's go ahead and put it in there. Because me personally, I'm not a fan of farmhouse ales. I like Spotted Cow.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, I know Connor, hazy and New England IPAs are the same thing. Jeez.
Not necessarily. The difference can be in the fact if a hazy IPA doesn't have to have citrus in it. I think New England's, one of the key characteristics of it is citrus flavors. I'm not from New England.
Either way.
So I'm just going off of what Mike Allen, who is pretty well versed in this stuff, I think he's the one that said that to be in New England, it had to have citrus, right? I think that's.
I don't specifically know. I don't believe so. Mike said right on Denny. Connor said no. So listen, I love you guys, but
you guys battle it out. You guys battle it out on the
Maine and Georgia come together again. Yeah, you guys are gonna have a All right,
yeah,
so I'll take a peek at that while.
Okay.
Comes up as the second search result. Anyway,
okay.
Yeah, go ahead and let's continue on, and I'll take a peek.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, Bill, for writing in. Our mailbag has been pretty slow, and I'm glad we got to put some meat into this show with feedback, with you recommending a podcast episode and asking a question, which now generated some interaction with our listeners.
Okay.
Live.
Here we go. Straight from the bjcp.org website. This is on Style 21C, the hazy IPA. In the comments, they write, also known as New England IPA.
Okay.
So,
but a hazy can be a New England, but if it has citrus.
I don't think that matters, and I don't think that's going to matter.
According to Mike, I'm just by Mike.
Okay.
Mike said this. I believe Mike.
Okay.
All right, let's go on. But hey, if you want to be like Bill and leave us feedback, a question, or give us a recommendation, you can do that easily through email at taptocraft@gmail.com or on Twitter and Instagram. Just follow us and hit us up on at taptocraft. And of course, Chris wants to interact with you on Facebook, facebook.com/taptocraft. And you know what? We do have a podcast, a website.
Yes, we do.
Tap the Craft podcast website, taptocraft.com. And guess what I've been doing? I have been adding blog posts like crazy. So go check it out and see what I've been posting on the Beer Rambles blog. And we are running. Oh, we also have a voicemail line. How did I forget that? If you want to leave us a voicemail, because you know what? It's so much easier just to pick up that phone, hit that speed dial, and call us and talk than it is to sit down at a computer or your phone and type in words, right? Just talk to us. And that number is 208-536-3359. Or if it's easier for you to remember, 208-53-ODDLY, and leave us your voicemail. All right. We are running a contest. So far, nobody is winning because nobody has submitted any entries. Come on, people. I know you want a Frost Buddy. You want one of these, right? Come on, we've got one for you. All you have to do is go to Spotify or whatever app you're using and rate us if it has a rating. Snapshot of it. Take a little screenshot of it and email it to us at taptocraft@gmail.com. Every app that you do that to, you'll be entered in an entry to win a Frost Buddy.
Or you can definitely send it to us on Facebook Messenger too. That's easier.
Yeah.
Because send an email. Now, Denny, here's something that I think we talked about this on the last episode or the one before that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, does it fit? No. Okay, so fat bottom bottles don't fit.
No, certainly won't. That's okay.
That was the Modelo bottle, wouldn't fit. They were making a Modelo one. Okay.
So they're either way though, it fits just about everything else though.
Okay.
Even stuff that you have to force in there sometimes.
All right, Chris, let's continue this conversation because now it is time to untap the craft and see what our listeners are drinking according to Untapped.
See what our readers are listening to.
I'm telling you, this is going to be one of those days where I'm going to trip over my tongue.
Okay, well, have some more beer. That always helps.
I need to loosen it up.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so guys, remember, if you want us to read your check-ins on our Untapped the Craft segment, make sure you follow me on Untapped. My name is MCK1345. And then check into a beer within 24 hours of us recording on Mondays, every other Mondays at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. And we'll read your check-ins live on our show. So we're going to start with Mr. Craig Andrew right here in the greater Tampa area. He is drinking a D-Hop 43 by Equilibrium Brewery and enjoying that at the Mangoes and Marley, a coastal cafe. Okay. It just says EQ Juice, #mangoes got it all, baby. 4.5 caps for that beer. Lauren F is drinking a couple of different things. She is drinking The Rip by Calusa, which she gave 4 caps to, and House of the Dragon Syrax by McKellar Brewing in San Diego, 3 3/4 caps for that one. Mr. Jeff Seiler, ooh, this is a good one. Abraxas from 2021 by Perennial Artisan Ales. He said, this is decadent, big chocolate, nice heat, and a perfect amount of sweetness. I want this beer when I'm snowed in for this year's first big winter storm.
Yeah.
Cheers, Jim Cantori. Yeah, so if you guys know the rule, if Jim Cantori shows up, it's time to leave. But 4.5 caps for this beer, and I agree with him on that one because Abraxas is always one of my favorites that if I can get a hold of it, I'm going to drink it. Robbie is drinking a Warsteiner Marzen Oktoberfest by Warsteiner. Solid and drinkable, all caps for that for those notes. 4 1/4 cap for that check-in. Mr. David Martin drinking The Lot of You by Hobcaw Brewing Company at the Harris Teeter Tavern. Very solid IPA from a new brewery to me. 4 cap rating for that one. He's also checking into the Kentucky Pumpkin Barrel Ale by Lexington Brewing and Distilling Company. He said, I seem to drink this every 2 years. So 4 1/4 caps on that one. Mike Allen, I haven't scrolled up through your stuff yet, but I'd be willing to bet you're drinking at the Taco Mac. And you've had a couple that you're going to put into your listing. So let's see. The Pretzels Pale Ale by Monkey Wrench Brewing at the Taco Mac. 3 cap rating for that one. Depth Perception by Terrapin, also at the Taco Mac. He said less dank than what I'm used to from these guys, and that's okay by me. 3 3/4 caps for that one. And the Cosmic Cabbage by Monday Night Brewing Company. 4 cap rating for that one. And only because of the way you wrote your check in, the HAZY 710 Pale Ale from Sweetwater Brewing Company. Move along. Nothing to see here. 3 cap rating for that one. Bill Schlemmer is drinking a double dry hopped Jurassic Park by Black Stack Brewing at the Draft and Vessel Tosa. This 10% Citra Bomb from Black Stack and Toppling Goliath goes down smooth and easy as a session IPA. Well, damn, buddy, you're in trouble.
Yeah, 10% session.
Yeah, depends on what kind of session you're going after. Love the hop combination of Citra Cryo, and Rawaka hops. 4 1/2 caps for this check-in from Mr. Bill Schlemmer. Oh, he's still continuing his check-in streak. Mr. Chad Lamassa drinking a B2 Bomber by Flying Ace Distillery and Brewery. Honey, honey, and more honey. The bourbon barrel aging cuts the sweetness, though. Some bready qualities as well. This is delicious. 4 1/2 cap brewing. Now, Denny, it just made me think of, told you I was starting to brew mead, right?
Yeah.
I have a cool picture that I'm going to share off of my phone. I'm going to screen share. So if you guys are watching this live, you'll get to see it. But I had a little mishap.
I was afraid this might happen.
Well, listen, before we left, thank God. But it was just because of a little mistake that I made. Anyway, Jeff Seiler is drinking a Bringing Extra Sexy back by Aslan Beer Company. I had that one a year or two ago. That one was delicious. He said you're bringing Extra Tasty back. Delicious, hazy double IPA, super fruity. Love Aslan IPAs. 4 1/4 caps for that one. Mr. Matt Knight drinking a Blood Orange Hefeweizen by Ellicottville Brewing Company. Not bad. Too much orange for my personal tasting. 3 1/4 caps for that one. Scrolling on through with Mike Allen, the Limoncello by Crafted Artisan Meadery. 4 1/4 caps. Craig Andrews checking into a couple of more. Bears on a Rampage by Hidden Springs Ale Works. Doesn't look as red as the others had posted. That's what he said. 3 1/2 caps. And then he also checked into Double Dry Hopped All Citra Everything by Other Half Brewing Company, checking in at the Dunedin House of Beer over on the Gulf Coast of Florida. Finally getting my posts in. Thanks again, Isaac W. Mo Citra, baby. 4 1/2 caps for that beer. Now I got to refresh, make sure we didn't miss any. Cody A. drinking a Mutagenic Alchemy by War Pigs USA. 4 cap rating on that one. And that is what everybody's drinking, Denny.
Oh, excellent. All right. Well, you know what? It's time for us to continue drinking.
Yes.
We have a tasting notes segment. So let's bust out our Chimay White Sink Sense. You ready for that one?
I'm ready. I got my delete.
Brought another glass?
Yes. I did. Thanks, Connor.
So we'll go ahead and open this up. I don't know if there's any. Oh, yeah. Did you hear that?
I did. You hear this?
Was that a can?
No.
Was that?
I open like a professional. That's what it is.
It sounded like you just opened a can. I'm like, what kind of opening is that? I got the slow open with the the escaping bottle conditioned gas. So as we pour this beer, and you know what, I forgot to go on the side and get some notes on this thing. So my apologies again, listener.
I'm pouring awfully careful on this one too, and I got nothing but head.
Well, I poured really careful too, but the head's not as bad as this one's actually more reasonable, I think. It also doesn't look as dense as the double. The double had a lot creamier. These are more coarse bubbles. Oh,
What did we
what
do
are you doing
here?
here, Chris?
I'm breaking stuff. Leave me alone.
We just lost.
I'm back. I'm back.
I was getting ready to see how coarse these bubbles are in there. It's really coarse. And it's not as clear. I can't see you through this beer when I look at you. It's got a little haze to it, a little hazy haze.
Yeah,
it must be a New England IPA.
I was going to say it's got some New England to it.
But yeah, no. It's a nice golden color. Golden, yeah, it's gold. I'll say
maybe even light copper, amber.
I would say light amber, golden, light amber. The head is white though. It's not off white. It's like white. What do you agree or?
I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna let people.
Yeah.
Figure that out. Oh, come
on. Yeah. It's pretty white on your camera too.
It's weird having to move it the opposite way that you want it to go.
Yeah. So it's got a white head. The head's dissipating quicker than the double. Because we had to really dive into that double last time.
Yeah.
Oh, you just did it again.
I know. I'm doing it. Just give me a second.
Going on,
I know what I'm doing here. Okay. I'm going to show you that picture
like amateur hour.
It is not amateur hour. Listen, this is episode 213. I just want to share pictures.
Oh, back porch. Whoa. Wow, your bathroom looks
and that's
disgusted too.
Yeah, this was the morning that we were leaving for Las Vegas.
So that's on your roof?
So that is on the ceiling of my bathroom.
Yeah.
And this was what I did is when the one that I'm messing with was going to be strawberry and peach. Now, mind you, after this happened, it's still fermented. It's still bubbling just a little bit. And I'm curious to see what happens, but the container is only like 2/3 full. So I chopped up the peaches that I bought and threw everything in there, the yeast nutrients, the yeast, everything. And as the CO2 started to rise in the fermenting container, it pushed the fruit right up against the hole of the airlock.
Yeah.
Well, I'm using a glass 1 gallon jug with a plastic lid, and the plastic lid started to bow a little bit. So my genius decided I'll just unscrew it. I'll unscrew it just a little bit, let some air out of it.
Air out. Boom.
Painted the ceiling of my bathroom in peaches, strawberries, and honey.
I wish you would have recorded it as it was going on. That would have been a great TikTok video.
Oh my God. I think I had to leave. I feel like it was 9:30 in the morning when I was doing that. I had to leave at like 11:30 to go to the airport so I could fly to Vegas. And thank God Tina was like, you know what? We don't leave until later. I'll take care of this. I started into it. Nice. Oh my God. I was like, you just get into that moment where you're like, just F it all. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. I still got to get dressed and packed and all that stuff. So, but anyway,
okay, so back to the beer now.
Back to the beer. Yes, please.
All right. So I'm taking some nose hits. It's definitely have some fruit. Like when I say fruit, I don't mean like juicy fruit. I mean like This is tough. These are always tough to come up with the aroma.
It's almost peach apricot,
Apricot, yeah. I think apricot is what I would say.
which
It
helps
has
because
apricot aromas with a
or
little bit of.
nectarine. I ate a nectarine yesterday, so
No, I'm gonna
it's
say I
kind of
think you're right. I think apricot is probably the thing that like dried apricot is
yeah.
what I'm smelling. So it's dried apricot and aroma. It's nice, but it's not like I, I'd ex- I've had beers this week that were like super like aroma in my face, right? I'm like,
Hmm.
ooh, this is great. And then when I drink it, it was like subdued. I'm like, well, that's weird. This is really strong in the aroma, but the taste is not as strong. And then I've had some beers where the aroma is like, wow, this is not very much aroma, but the flavor was big. So I've had both extremes this week on beers that surprised me. So I'll be
This
curious if this one surprises me.
this could even be like raisins or like super tart wine grapes.
Yeah, I was thinking it gives me a feeling of wine, right? That's what that
Hmm.
sharp, like a little bit of that sharpness of wine, but the apricot for sure. When you said that, that is what I smell in here is trying to pinpoint it. Okay, well, let's go ahead and drink this sucker. Okay, this surprises me. One because it's way stronger on my palate than I was expecting,
Yeah.
and and it finishes with like dried fruit, like sensation, like dried apricots uh, or maybe even some. Wow, it's very strange because it came across a bit more bitter than I was expecting,
Hmm.
and not bitter like pine bitter, but just bitter like a regular bitterness, not an overly hop bitterness. Like something that came across bitter was surprised me, but the finish, like if you let it sit in your mouth, it's like I just went ahead and popped in some dried apricots and chewed them up, and I've got that you know that dried fruit mouth,
Well, this is
stickiness.
this. I mean, this tastes like hop bitterness to me.
It probably is hop bitterness for sure, but not like it's not like piney hops or anything. It's
Mm-mm. It's grassy, floral. I'm sure these
floral.
are these are
I
probably
will say
noble hops
floral.
too.
Yeah, I'll say floral. Maybe some grassy is in there. I'll say floral for sure. I get some floral character on the hops. Maybe some grassiness. I like the finish way better than I like the early taste.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not enjoying this one as much as the last
No,
one. No.
I think this one, the bitterness on this one is a lot more is more significant than the other ones that we've had.
Yeah.
And this one, it starts with me. It's like sweet honey, and then it immediately just kind of just transforms into this whole other, I guess, taste experience, if you want to call it that. But it does. It starts out super super sweet as it coats your tongue, um, and then you get some kind of breadiness from the yeast, and then it kind of turns into this hop thing that I've got going
It's
on.
too bitter for me. It's not what I expect in a triple.
Yeah.
I don't like bitter triples. I like more delicate triples that that just kind of dance on your tongue and your palate and just kind of like tingles you and enjoys it, not shocks you with this bitter. The bitterness is too much for me. I'm not saying it's too much bitterness. It's just for this style of beer, I don't like my triples this bitter.
No, not at all. And it's I would want it less bitter, just like you would. Um,
Yeah, I'm gonna say I don't recommend this as someone to try Belgian beers. One of the first beers, not
nope.
not not for sure. that double for sure, 100%. That beer, fantastic. The both of the Duvals we had, those were both good. Mine was good. Yours was good.
Mm-hmm.
I recommend that for sure as well. That was really good. But I'll say this Sink Sense White, pass on this one.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it does have some bubbles. I'm trying to hold them down so I don't, you know.
Oh, just let it happen.
Embarrass
You've done it.
myself too
You've done
much.
it in the past. Who
Yeah.
cares?
But yeah, I'm gonna let this. Let's continue. Anything else you want to say on this thing?
I'm gonna use this Phantom Bride to cleanse my palate.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this. Maybe I'm drinking it a little too cold. It wasn't. It was on ice, but it wasn't like cold. But I'm gonna let it warm up a little bit while we move on to the next. Well, actually, our next tasting in episode 214 will be the Chimay Blue,
That's
which
my
is the
favorite.
Grand. Yeah, mine too. The Grand Reserve Dark Strong Ale, or Strong Dark Ale, whatever you want to call it. This is a beer that I will enjoy.
Yeah, and mine is I pulled it out at the beginning before we even started recording, probably 10 minutes before you jumped on.
Mhm.
And mine's definitely, I don't know, 50, 60 degrees. So it's not mine. It's got that super bitter aftertaste to it.
Okay. So it doesn't get better as it, sometimes the sharpness will wear off. So it's not, the sharpness can add to that bitterness, amplification. So I'm hoping the sharpness will die out a little bit, but it's, yeah, I definitely didn't enjoy that. So,
well, only one way to find out, Denny. See what happens in 10 minutes.
yeah. Okay, well, let's go on to our Beer Speak 101. It's going to be a real quick one. The Beer Speak 101 is where we briefly define common and not so common beer terminology. In this episode, we're going to explain what it means when we talk about a grain bill. What the heck is a grain bill? A grain bill, sometimes also called a malt bill, is a list of all the grain malts and adjuncts used in a specific beer recipe. Specifically, all the stuff that is put into the beer recipe prior to any hop additions to make the wort. And every beer has a specific grain bill. So that's what a grain bill is. Short and sweet. Okay, well, we've lost all of our Facebook watchers, except for probably Connor's probably still there. Maybe Mike Allen too, hopefully. That's okay. We're going to go into the Brew Buzz segment now. The Brew Buzz is devoted to discussing various beer-related topics. And this week we decided to go revisit the malting process and why beer needs malted grains. What the heck is malt? Why do we call it malt? Why can't I just go to the cupboard and grab some flour and throw it in there and boil it and make beer? Well, we're going to tell you why you can't do that. And I grabbed information. I pieced this together from 3 different things I've found on the internet. These articles will be in the show notes, so you can go and read them in full if you want. I did not take them in full. I've pieced together what I wanted. One of them is, what is malt in beer? This was found on, believe it or not, the Wine Enthusiast website, written by John Hall. Also, a article called Malt found on the Brew Enthusiast website. Yeah. And then What is Malt? Found on How to Brew website, written by John Palmer, the famous writer. I took a little bit of snippets from his and mixed it in here as well. We've got a smorgasbord of information about malt and grains.
You almost went Muppets on that smorgasbord.
Yeah. All right, so let's kick this thing off. Malt, or grains, processed for brewing is critical to a beer style. The grain bill delivers aroma, flavor, mouthfeel, head retention, and color to the finished product. In addition to the above attributes, it also provides the fermentable sugars that create alcohol. Malt is essentially the toasted version of any cereal grain. It includes barley, wheat, oat, rye, etc. The full name would be malted barley or malted wheat if we chose to say it that way. We just call it short malt. We don't choose to say it that way. So in beer vernacular, we just say malt. In most beer styles, the malt is barley because its relatively high enzyme content makes it conducive.
You got this.
For brewing. Malting is a process in which barley is soaked and drained to initiate germination of a plant from the seed. When the seed germinates, it activates enzymes which start converting its starch reserves and proteins into sugars and amino acids that the growing plant can use. The purpose of malting a grain is to release these enzymes for use by the brewer. Once the seeds start to sprout, the grain is dried in a kiln to stop the enzymes until the brewer is ready to use the grain. Grains suitable for brewing undergo several steps before they're ready to be steeped into mash. After harvest, the grains are stored, steeped, germinated, or sprouted, which prepares the individual kernels for brewing. Maltsters then dry the grains in a kiln or roaster, cure them, and send them off to the brewers. So, Chris, I got you a fun fact here.
I know. I almost got that out. Fun fact: over 90% of the malt made around the globe is used specifically to brew beer. That's millions of tons of malt every year. The rest of the malt is used to make whiskey, baked goods, and certain specialty dishes. The EU is the world's largest producer of malt, followed somewhat closely by America.
Yeah.
The malting process begins with a maltster. A maltster, a person or an organization who makes the malt. They spread the freshly picked grains out in a giant warehouse to a depth of about 5 inches. And these warehouses of malt are enormous and custom built to make the malt. Over the next 6 to 8 weeks, the grain is air dried and then sprinkled or sometimes inundated with water to allow the grain to germinate, aka sprout. The grain's germination process is halted using heat, called green malt at this point, and then kiln dried to a specific temperature in order to create those lovely enzymes and sugars and make them available for the brewing process. This is where the malt develops its signature flavors. Different roasting temperatures and times give you different malts depending on the amount of heat and caramelization the grain undergoes. When the maltster is done with the process, he bags up the malt, or if you order enough malt, sticks it into a truck or train in huge amounts, and sells it to breweries, homebrew shops, and bakers who use it to make their beer and bread.
Yeah, so that's the general process of making malt and getting malt, right? Most of the small brewers, they aren't going to have a big silo outside the brewery and full of malt. They're going to start off with bags of malt, right? And that's what John Ream does over at Trek. I don't think he's got maybe he has a silo out in the back now making all that beer, but the reason you have a silo is that if you're making that much beer, it's cheaper if you buy it in bulk, and if you have a place to store it, then buy it in bulk, get it cheaper, and use that malt away. But smaller breweries are going to be buying it by the bag load. And I've gone to a number of brewery tours and stuff, and a lot of the good ones talk about what goes into the beer and the malts and how these different malts are, how they're different, right? And what makes them different, and it's very interesting. And we're not going to go in detail to the different types of. There's hundreds of malt varieties, and now there's micro maltsters that are making premium or artisanal, whatever you want to call it, premium malts that are local. Some local place like here in Idaho, we have Great Western maltsters that make a lot of good malt that's used in Idaho beers. And but there's a lot of these micro maltsters that are doing this and making small batches for brewers. So I was wanting to go into details on those as well, but I thought I'd save that for a different show. Talk about some micro maltsters and some of the specialty malts that they make for special beers and for just premium quality beer. All right, so now we're going to go briefly into the types of some of the types of malt. Again, I just mentioned there's over 100 different types of malts. We're not going to go list all of those. That's crazy. But here we'll go over and talk about a few of them. So, wheat and two-row barley are among the most popular brewing grains, thankfully to their availability and the cereal and bready flavors that they impart. You'll find wheat in the grain bill of popular German-style ales like Hefeweizen and two-row in American standards like Samuel Adams Boston Lager. Two-row malt. This is the kind of malt made from two-row grain. It's called two-row because the way the grain is stacked on the stalk of the plant. Europeans use two-row malt almost exclusively in their beers, rarely, if ever, incorporating American six-row barley into their grain bill. Six-row barley can be a little rough in the brewing process, so it's used noticeably less in modern brewing. So what is six-row malt? Well, this is the kind of malt made from six-row grain, just like the two-row. It's aptly named because of the way the grain grows on the end of the stalks. Six-row grain barley is grown in America and gives some beers a signature flavor, aroma, and color. I'll be curious to find out which beers use six-row.
I just all of a sudden you said 6-row because of how it's set up on the stalk, and I'm like, what do we do? Just the GMOs just made it put out 3 times as much.
Good question. I don't know if it's a naturally occurring or if you're right, if it was genetically made. That's probably why it's so harsh. It's not natural. All right. The last one I'm going to talk about before Chris continues on is the base malts. Base malts are used as the most common and therefore generally composed of the largest percentage of a given grain bill. These malts are lightly kilned, not highly, lightly kilned, and thus provide a lot of those lovely enzymes and fermentable sugars that help a beer become all that it can be, or at least give the yeast something to chow down on during fermentation.
All right, so let's get into a couple of these different styles of malt. So you have a pale and light malts. These have less enzymes than the base malts because they're essentially heated longer. Excuse me, this beer's getting me. But they impart a robust malt aroma and flavor to the beer. Generally, these are kilned at higher temperatures for a shorter amount of time. The caramel malts, roasted using a slightly different yet very similar process. Caramel malts can vary in color from light to deep brown and are used to impart some flavor, but mostly color to a beer. Caramel malts lend sweetness. Dark and roasted malts, they've been kilned or actually roasted for a longer duration than light and caramel malts, and therefore most of their starches and enzymes have been destroyed. These malts provide the rich color and rich flavor, but very little sugar for the yeast to work on. So roasted malts deliver on their name, but can also add coffee, chocolate, and toffee flavors. Stouts, porters, and various other darker beer styles require these malts in the grain bill.
And not a lot of them either.
No, it's a little bit goes a long way.
Yeah, I think when John and I made our Belgian Dark Strong Ale, homebrewed it years ago, I swear that the dark grains that were in that dark beer was like
a handful,
like less than a handful. It was like 12 grains, it felt like, but it was more than that. But it seemed like that's it, John. We put all this massive amounts of grain in here, and now we're putting a handful of dark grains to make it dark. But guess what? It worked.
Yeah,
and it gave those flavors, coloring and flavors to the beer that we needed. So.
Yeah, and even when I was using extract to brew beers, it was, you get a pound of this one or a pound of that one, and then you get a couple ounces of the dark and roasted malts. All right, so this next one, other grain malts, clever name. Certain beer styles, wit beers like wheat beers, oatmeal stout, rye, pale ales, etc., require alternative grains or grains other than barley to be used in the mash. They impart signature mouthfeel, aroma, flavor, and sugar content to their respective beers. Rye gives beer spiciness, while sorghum imparts nutty and earthy notes. Oats have grown in popularity with brewers who make the New England style IPAs or hazy IPAs, depending on who you're talking to, because they add body. Wheat is also popular in the style thanks to the texture it provides. There are smoked malts as well. Their flavor and aroma can be polarizing, but there's beauty in a soft, ashy, woody aroma in a porter or Helles.
Yeah. So that's our take on malt, the malting process, and why malt is needed for beer. And why is malt needed for the beer? Because it needs to have those enzymes and starches created in there with the germination process and the kilning to preserve it for when the brewer needs to go ahead and crush it, put it in the water, boil it up, and get those starches and enzymes out into it so the wort will be beautiful and tasty. And it gives the yeast something to eat, right? That's the key too. You need the yeast
Keep
needs,
them
you
happy.
can't go hungry. Yeah,
Gotta
you
keep them happy.
Keep them happy. Wow, that was it, Chris. We're doing good on this show. I feel
Yeah.
good about this. We
We
busted
are.
it out. We had a lot of content. We're not done yet though.
Well,
Now,
have you
yeah,
taken a sip of your beer as it's sat for the next?
yeah. It's slightly better, but still, I'm gonna if I haven't, I'm gonna rate this a 3 out of 5 for
That's
my Belgian triples.
wow.
I'm really not satisfied with this triple, to be honest with you. I think I remember I would remember if I've had this one before because I wouldn't have liked it, or maybe I just forgot it
I
because I didn't
haven't.
like it.
I checked. I haven't had this one yet.
Okay, well we've had it now and we won't have it again. We'll
Yeah.
save our money for the good ones like the red and the blue.
Oh my gosh. And I've said this so many times. I'm so excited for the blue one.
Yeah, if we only knew, we could have just skipped this one. But hey, we had to have the red, white, and blue. Right?
Listen, that's what we do. We got to try them all. We can't, can't just go, oh well, I heard that white one's not so good, so we'll skip it. No, we got to try it. Got to try it too. Because then we wouldn't be heeding our own advice when we go, well, if you haven't found a beer in the style that you like, keep trying.
Keep trying. Well, talking about beers in the style you like, what are your new noteworthy beers this week?
I've had a couple, and funny enough, I was. If you're just jumping into our live broadcast, we are fresh back from Nevada, Las Vegas for some work stuff. So we were able to get some good beers on the West Coast that we can't necessarily get here in Florida. So the first one I'm going to talk about, I got from that lovely beer delivery service, Tavour, a while back. From pFriem Family Brewers, their rum barrel aged porter from 2021. And this beer I cracked open last night, and it was definitely one that I had to let warm up a little bit.
Okay.
But once it warmed up to that ideal temperature of that about 50 degrees or so, it was really nice. You get some vanilla flavors, you get some roastiness from the dark malts that are in the porter, but some roastiness, but some great vanilla and oak and just that. Well, it's aged in a rum barrel, so it's going to put off of that oak and vanilla flavors that come out really well in that beer. And it's from pFriem, so it was a 5-cap beer for me.
Nice.
These guys, I wish and wish and wish we were able to get more of them out here in Florida, but the only time I can get it is if I order from that beer delivery service, or if I make the trek over to a little closer to the West Coast. Yeah, I just gotta travel a little more apparently.
I can get them if I go 45, about an hour drive to Ontario, Oregon. It's the border of Idaho and Oregon. They have a couple pFriems there, but it's a long drive. But I could get some Great Notion there too while I'm there. Did you have any Great Notion while you were?
Funny enough, we get Great Notion here.
Oh, what? You do not.
Yes, I do actually.
Oh my gosh.
Anytime I see it, anytime I go into Gasparilla Pizza.
Well, okay, way to go, Connor.
Connor,
can you work it? Can you open a Gasparilla here in Boise? We could have a Tap to Craft pizza and growler team up.
Yeah,
Boise and Tampa.
But yeah, at least I don't 100% know if they distribute here. It might have just been like a one-time thing, but I do remember getting a couple of Great Notion beers the last time I was in there in the pizzeria. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. That sounds like one of those breweries that would just be this random, oh, we're going to go ahead and start distributing to Florida.
Well,
But we'll see. Next on the list is from Weldwerks Brewing Company. Their Space Tunnel. Space Tunnel was, I believe, it was a hazy IPA. I don't recall off the top of my head, but I'll go ahead and look that up because that would be responsible of me. Where'd it go? There it is. Yep, New England IPA. So I was able to have this when I was over at Corey's Corey's. I don't want to butcher the name. Beer and Fine Wine. Listen, these guys take
Corey's with a K.
It's Corey's with a K. Corey's Fine Wine and Spirits in Las Vegas.
KOUR.
KHOURY. Yeah. And every time I've gone here, what's great is when we were there, last week, the same guy that took care of me this past week was the same guy that was there when I was there 3, 4, 5 years ago when I was living in Vegas for work.
Yeah.
Phil.
Probably the same guy that I was there last time I was in Vegas and went to Corey's.
Phil has been there, I think he said 7 years. I said, man, you look really familiar. Have you been here, like working here for a while? And he goes, oh yeah, I've been here for about 7 years. And I said, I believe you took care of me one of the last times I was out here. And that guy's got some not only great recommendations, he's just a cool dude.
Nice.
So cheers to that one. So the Weldwerks Brewing Company Space Tunnel gave them a 4.25 cap rating. And then I got to get some beer from a brewery that I haven't seen in a while or heard you talk about in a while, Denny. Revision Brewing out of Reno, Nevada. These guys right here, only because of what it says. Tried their Tickle machine.
I've had that one.
Have you?
Yeah.
The Tickle machine Imperial Stout. Where'd it go? There it goes.
They have two versions. They have the regular and the barrel aged one.
So this was not barrel aged, but this one is has some coffee in it, with from the Old World Coffee Lab. But I love that they actually put in some information on the beer, like when it talks about why they called it this. So it says, when harvesting coffee cherries, it's important not to damage the woody evergreens on which they grow. A gentle tickle is all it takes to shake them loose. The base of this rich imperial stout is laden with notes of espresso and dark chocolate, and then taken to the next level with a blend of expertly roasted Guatemalan and Sumatran coffee beans. And this was definitely one after they poured it, had to let it warm up a little bit.
Yeah.
But man, just a great solid beer from Revision. And that's pretty much what I've had from them. Just good solid beers from them.
Oh, wait a minute. Well, my check-in isn't here on that one, but I've had this beer.
Yeah.
Either I forgot to check into it, or I put a bogus date stamp on it and they removed it.
Yeah, it says my friends haven't had this beer yet.
No, I've had this beer before. I know I've had this beer.
Well, but yeah, I gave this one a 4.25 as well. But it was cool to be able to go out and enjoy some beers that I don't get normally.
Yeah.
Out towards the West Coast. So what about you, Denny? Huh?
Okay, but before we get to me, so you think you'll have some more beers that you brought back that you haven't had yet that you'll be talking about, or did you bring back stuff you just love?
I do. So I'm literally looking at I've had this one before, the Fall of Troy from Belching Beaver.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, the orange can.
Yeah, it's like a creamsicle IPA if I remember correctly. But I brought back 3 or 4 Fremont barrel aged beers. I know I brought back Rusty Nail. I know I brought back the Brew 6000.
Oh wow, that's nice.
that picture I texted to you, man, I was impressed with the stuff that they have there. But yeah, there was 6 different options. They had the Bee Bomb, which is pretty typical, but some of them had coffee in them, and I went, yeah, you know what, I'll stick to just like maybe the barley wines, because the coffee, if I don't drink it now, that coffee flavor doesn't normally last as long as I'd want it to.
Yeah, yeah, and well, the thing is that that beer was released, I last December. The Tickle machine was.
Oh,
It's
Tickle Machine?
yeah,
Are you sure?
yeah.
Hmm. Well,
That's when
um,
I had it last Christmas time. Is when I had it. That's why I don't know why it's not on my. I don't know why it's not on my Untapped. Maybe I forgot to check it in. I
maybe it
won't
was.
blame Untapped for this one.
Well, listen, I know Bill Schlemmer said that one of his
Yeah.
check-ins got
Oh, I
deleted.
forgot to mention that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He said he's only had one check-in removed, and it was valid because he checked into a dated 2019 that was a 2019 vintage, but it he checked into that in 2019, and then he checked into a 2020 version of the beer, and a 2020 version he didn't have a date on it. It was valid, and the one that he put 2019 they removed it because that's not a brewery vintage year. It wasn't written on the label.
Ah.
No, but mine aren't that case. I know mine aren't that case because they don't show up. They don't ever report what they're removing. Mine are accidentally getting deleted somehow. And it is a sore subject. I won't talk about it anymore. Let's get into my beers.
Tell me about your beers, Denny. I want to hear about them.
It is Oktoberfest season, and I don't remember if I talked about this beer last week or last show or not, but I'm going to talk about it now. The Big Sky Brewing Oktoberfest.
That's another one that I wasn't able to have, Denny. I went to my normal place in Vegas, wasn't able to get any Moose Drool. They didn't have it on
Oh,
tap.
no Moose Drool either.
Mm,
I I drank a 6 pack of Moose Drool too. I thought I was going to bring a Moose Drool up tonight and drink it, but I already drank them all, so I couldn't do
that's
that.
okay.
I should have brought this beer up, the Big Sky Brewing Oktoberfest. I have one more left, but this beer is fantastic. Here's what I have to say about it. This beer is really good. I'm getting a pronounced toffee malt flavor character with a very complementary hop flavor that I can't pinpoint. All I know is this is delicious and does not come across sweet. I literally drank this 12-ounce can in about 3 gulps. So I drank that can in 3 gulps and the next can in about 6 gulps. Um, Beer is fantastic. I love this beer. A 4 3/4 cap rating. And I had some people that were chatting with me about that. So that's the first beer. Um, the next beer is OEC Brewing's Obscura Baltic Porter. And I've talked about OEC, that's out of Connecticut. And it's got some big long name that you can't pronounce because it's all in Latin. So I won't try. But let me try to find this on my Untapped. I just had this one the other night. It's a Baltic porter, as I mentioned. The aroma is fairly subdued with some sweet toffee. The flavor is more molasses with a touch of tobacco and dark dried fruit tang. This beer is very enjoyable. So far, I think I've liked every beer from OEC. They have all been winners. 4.5 cap rating for that Baltic porter. My next one is Reuben's Brews
Mm.
Stay Frosty Cold IPA. And I say a little bit more about these beers I just mentioned. Well, maybe not the Baltic Porter. I think I
Had
did
this
the
one.
Baltic Porter. Yeah,
I've had this one.
you've had the
I
Stay
have.
Frosty Cold.
I did. I think I had it at Badass Beer Fest in November of last year
Okay,
at Tampa Brewing Company. So they had a Rubens
all
rep there.
right. Okay, well they even had a cold IPA. So I've been drinking these cold IPAs like crazy, and I've loved them all. It's a new style that I appreciate. I like, not like the brewed IPA, but this one is, all I say is another fine cold IPA, bold hops and malt yet crisp. 4.25 cap rating. Whew, I'm starting to burp up these beers.
There it comes.
And I have a few beers. If you haven't noticed, I'm on my fourth beer and I'm drinking, or not drinking, talking about in my new and order. I had a lot of good beers. I just want to talk about them. And these beers are also on our website. So if you want to find out more information, because I go into more details on these, go visit taptocraft.com and look at the Beer Rambles blog. Next beer is from Boneyard Beer. Oh, I love Boneyard Beer. This is called the Crooked Pilsner. Nice malty aroma, bread doughy. The hops complement the maltiness with a light floral and earthy tones. Crisp and refreshing with a subtle bitterness in the finish. A Pilsner you could drink one after another. 4.25 cap rating. And my last beer from a brewery that I thoroughly love from Portland, Oregon, Von Ebert Brewing. This is their Cold Pale Pils. It's a pale lager. Grapefruit hop dominates the aroma. The flavor has the grapefruit blended with cereal malt. Refreshing and crisp with pleasant grassy and bitter dry finish. This is really good. 4.25 cap rating. So those are my new and noteworthy beers. And a good variety of beers there, from a Baltic Porter to an Oktoberfest to a Pilsner to a cold Pils to a cold IPA.
Yeah.
Hey, I have everything. I'm just missing a brown ale and a Saison. But I do have a Von Ebert Saison that I'll be probably talking about on the next episode. So stay tuned to hear about a Saison. Okay, Chris, guess what? I'm on my third beer. I'm drinking this Sofa King Dreamy Tropical IPA from Payette Brewing. And another $5.99, no, $6.99 6-pack. You can't go wrong.
No.
For that price of 6-packs for good beer.
Especially when it's called Sofa King.
Yeah. Okay, so who'd like to raise a glass to? Sorry, I didn't finish my
You're what?
I don't know. I lost it. I'm too busy wanting to drink a beer.
Actually, I want to raise a glass to somebody I didn't put in the notes that I realized now that I could have. Want to raise a glass to the folks over at Corey's Fine Wine and Spirits, especially Phil. Thank you for taking care of me over there, buddy. We very much appreciate it. Not only did we get some great recommendations for some beers that were on tap, but he was pointing out a few things for us that I did ended up buying a couple of his recommendations and was not disappointed. So cheers to you, Phil. Keep up the good work, man. I hope we get to see it very soon next time we're in Las Vegas. But I also want to raise a glass to Miguel over at the No More Pours podcast. I was fortunate enough to get an invite to go do a show with him over in a hop field. Sounds weird to say here in Florida, but a hop field.
I can't wait to hear about this.
20 to 30 minutes south of us. We haven't done the episode yet, but he asked me if I could help him get some drone footage. And I said, I don't care, whatever you want me to do. You want me to do drone footage? Absolutely. I'll do it. So we're going to be recording, or I'm going to be recording with him, I believe on the 29th of September, just as long as our schedule stays correct. With the folks over at the Hop Farm in Wimauma, Florida. I believe it's an extension of one of the universities locally. I suck. I'm sorry. But Miguel, thanks for reaching out to me, buddy. Miguel also works over at Gasparilla Pizza and Pizzeria and Growlers. So I get to chat with him anytime I go in there. And I've also been invited to go over to Badass Beer Fest with him and his crew to go over and chat about beer. So looking forward to that in November as well.
Represent, man. Represent.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, Denny, if you want to hop on the flight to Florida in November, let me know. But
I'll be in Hawaii in November.
Oh yeah, it's anniversary time. Yeah.
Well,
you guys are anniversaries in
December.
Okay.
No, I'm just taking the family on a family vacation. I haven't done it. I haven't done a big trip, and we had COVID and all that. It's been a rough few years. I just wanted to treat the family well.
Well, that's pretty awesome. I know Kevin and Amanda Argauer are there now.
They were over there,
or they're home now. But either way, cheers to you, Miguel, and Phil, and all the guys over at Corey's Fine Wine and Spirits in Las Vegas. What about you, Denny? Who would you like to raise a glass to?
Yeah. So you know what? I'm kind of slacking this week. I only have one toast, and that's to our Patreon toastess, episode is to Mark Church. Thank you, Mark, representing in Ohio near Newark. Drinking Trek beer. Hopefully, you're still drinking Trek beer, supporting John. But cheers to you, Mark, for your Patreon support. I will mention that my buddy Alex just is back in town. He just came in today.
I
didn't even tell me he was coming in. I was shocked, and so I have some beers from Kirk Tabor. And I want to go ahead and see if we can get Kirk and Alex, maybe my buddy Sean, to come over this week and try some of these great beers. I don't want to drink them alone. I want to drink them with friends. So cheers to that event that might happen this week.
Yeah, actually, Alex is checked into 2 beers on Untapped. Caked Up by 10 Barrel Brewing. He just wrote pretty good for that one. And then he also checked into the Mayday Maibach by 10 Barrel Brewing. 4 cap rating for that one. Those were about 12 minutes ago.
Yeah, he's probably pre-funky because he's going to a power metal concert tonight after he just flew in from Israel. Like he just got into Israel, got jet lag. He came to work, and now he's drinking beer.
Wow.
That's going to help him stay awake, right? And then going to a power metal concert from Sweden. I can't remember the name. Subtura, something like that. Solturna? Look up power metal, Sweden power metal. Starts with an S. Soltura, Subtura, something like that.
Sultana?
It's in Boise. Look for a Boise.
I got to look it up in Boise.
Well, I mean, it's at the Revolution House tonight.
At the Revolution House. Okay.
Yeah, Revolution concert venue, whatever. I don't know. Never mind. But hey, the guy's a beast. He just came back. He just got back from a European tour where he went to 2 metal concerts. His favorite, Halloween, he saw in Munich, and another concert he went to on his trip too. While visiting all these countries, Munich, he went to the Hofbrauhaus. He went to.
I did that too. I almost won a beer chugging contest at the Hofbrauhaus. This close.
Wow, that's good for your age.
Yeah, this close. You know what? What's funny? The guy standing next to me, I totally forgot about this. The guy standing next to me, they go down the line and go, "Hey, what's your name? Where are you from?" And Chris from Tampa. And then they go to the guy next to me, and I can't remember what his name was, but he said he was from Germany. Denny, I beat the Germans.
Yeah, nice.
Beat the Germans. Nice. Yeah, I was happy about that. I lost by just a little bit, but.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
Right now that, not right now, but when Johan Halberg listens to this and he hears me say power metal from Sweden, he's probably listing off every power metal band from Sweden right now. And we just can't think of it. Soltura?
I don't know.
The S.
So I've got
Sub-Zero?
Sabatan.
Sabatan, that's it. Sabatan,
yeah.
That's it. They're playing in Revolution in Boise right now. That's where he's going to.
Well, enjoy. Have a blast. And
Sabatan. There you said it. I told you start with the S. Is it an S or?
It's an S. Yeah.
Okay.
Sabaton.
There we go. Now, Johan, hopefully you have calmed down from us not getting the right name. We said it. All right. Okay, Chris. Well, also, you know what? I can't forget to give a toast out to all the servicemen and women out there protecting our freedoms. Thank you for your service. I hope you are able to return home safely to your families very soon. And Chris, why don't you go ahead and lift a glass to our sponsor?
So we want to raise a glass to the folks over at Frost Buddy. They specialize in cooling containers for your beverage of choice. Frost Buddy has the Universal Buddy 2.0 right here. Which is the world's first universal can cooler for 12-ounce cans, slim cans, bottles, and even 16-ounce cans.
But not Chimay.
But not these guys. That's okay. Frost Buddy also has the world's first universal wine cooler, 24-ounce stainless steel mugs, and even stainless steel dog bowls. Go visit their website at frostbuddy.com.
And you can find the beers and the links to the articles mentioned in the show on our show notes posted at tapsofcraft.com. I think I said that right. I don't know. I think
you did. I got you. You're good. Keep going.
All right. And if you'd like to follow us on social media, I can be found on Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped at Loose Screw. And of course, Chris, how can our listeners follow you?
So hardly ever on Twitter at Chris_McKenzie82, unless you're a business I'm trying to get some stuff taken care of from. Untapped and Instagram at MCK1345, but you can always find us on everything social at Tap the Craft.
All right, it is last call. It's time to bring the show to a close. We want to thank you for downloading and listening. We ask you, please tell a friend. Of course, subscribe on your favorite podcast app. As a reminder, release a new show every 2 weeks. Now go out there and spread the good word of craft beer.
Cheers.
Cheers.